The opulent mansion glistened under the warm hues of sunset. Crystal chandeliers reflected off mirrored walls, casting myriad reflections across the polished marble floors. Waitstaff in crisp uniforms moved like shadows among the elegantly dressed guests, who sipped champagne and exchanged pleasantries amidst the luxurious ambience. Layla Carter stood quietly at the edge of the room, feeling the weight of her plain white blouse and modest black slacks. She had learned to blend into the background, serving gracefully without drawing attention, a silent observer in this opulent world far removed from her own. The gala was in full swing, lively chatter underscored by the soft strains of a string quartet. Guests adorned in designer attire mingled, the air fragrant with the subtle perfume of wealth and influence. Layla moved smoothly, refilling glasses and ensuring appetizers flowed seamlessly, her presence acknowledged with nothing more than a nod. As she approached the mayor's son, Marcus, offering a fresh glass of champagne, a commotion unexpectedly broke out. A sharp gasp echoed, followed by murmurs of alarm as Marcus staggered and fell to the floor, gasping for breath. Panic rippled through the crowd, and within moments, whispers of "poison" spread like wildfire. Councilwoman Hughes, towering and assertive, pointed an accusing finger at Layla. She was the last with his drink. It must be her doing. The assertion, hung in the air, was relentless and self-assured. Layla's heart raced. Others joined in the indictment, their voices tinged with skepticism, their looks openly dismissive. As security escorted her, the humiliation was palpable, public shaming before eyes that only saw blame. Walking out, Layla's head bowed, she whispered to herself, "I didn't do it." The mansion doors closed behind her, but the echoes of accusation clung tight to her heart. The bus ride back to her small apartment felt longer than it ever had, each stop punctuated by Layla Carter's racing thoughts and the rush of the city outside. She stared out the window, her reflection merging with the blurred lights of passing cars, yet all she saw was the accusatory glare of Councilwoman Hughes and the disbelieving whispers from around the room. Her entire world, already tenuous, had crumbled under the weight of those few calamitous minutes at the gala. When she finally walked through the door of her apartment, the silence was deafening. The normally comforting clutter, the half-read books on the table, the knitting basket by her chair, felt oppressive now, as though even the objects she owned were eyeing her with accusation. Layla sank into the worn cushions of her sofa, the events replaying mercilessly in her mind. She was powerless to stop the spiral of thoughts that followed, each turn taking her deeper into uncertainty and despair. Overhead, the dim light flickered briefly before stabilizing, casting her shadow long against the wall. She thought of the electricity bill due soon, she thought of every dollar she'd have to stretch even thinner now. Her heart felt heavy, as if every single hope and effort of the past few years had solidified into an unbearable weight pressing down on her chest. Through her haze of worry, memories began to unfurl, a past that seemed both vividly recent and achingly distant. There was her mother, warm and laughing, guiding her through homework at the dining table. Layla had once been a bright, driven student, her sights set on medical school, her grades a testament to her dedication. But life hadn't kept its course. Her mother had fallen ill unexpectedly, a baffling series of hospital visits and round-the-clock care that sapped not just their savings but Layla's time as well. Scholarships were withdrawn, acceptance letters to prestigious programs left unanswered. Her dreams of a stethoscope and a white coat shifted, not with resignation but with resolute love, into tending to her mother full-time. And when the illness claimed her mother, Layla was left standing at the foot of a bed gone cold, alone, and unsure how to move forward. She had worked countless jobs that came and went with the ebb of economy and demand, juggling shifts in diners, retail, and finally, at events like the ill-fated gala. This job, she had thought, was a small chance to piece together a stable future after years of upheaval. Today's events threatened to strip even that modest hope away. The next morning, Layla woke again on the sofa, a crick in her neck reminding her where she drifted off amidst fitful dreams. Sometime overnight, her resolve had steeled itself in the middle of despair. She realized she couldn't simply fade away as the guilty party everyone now assumed her to be. Her reputation may seem irreparably tarnished, but she knew in her heart she had to fight the shadows of doubt. Yet each small battle felt arduous. She couldn't stomach breakfast, the toast she attempted landed cold and uneaten back on its plate. She gripped the phone tightly at the prospect of calling the event coordinator to plead her case, to explain her innocence, restore her name. But hesitating, she set the phone back down with trembling hands. Who would believe her without proof? It was the brief knock at her door that shook her out of indecision. Her neighbor, Mrs. Jensen, stood on the threshold, offering a casserole dish of leftover lasagna with a kind, knowing smile. "You didn't come by this morning, dear, thought you could use a pick-me-up," the elderly woman said, her eyes crinkling with warmth. Layla fought the urge to cry at the small kindness shown. She accepted the dish with gratitude, managing a smile in reply. Once the door was again shut, she took a shaky breath, bolstered by the reminder of goodness amidst the hurt. She returned to the phone, feeling the weight of its voice as she dialed the Gala coordinator. The conversation was brief, polite yet devastatingly unyielding. There was nothing left to be done, no proof to be shared, and certainly no reinstatement forthcoming. Deflection sealed Layla's words from finding purchase, leaving her in the same place she'd begun, alone in her struggle with growing doubt and dwindling hope. It was later, as she numbly rearranged the furniture in an attempt to distract herself, that she paused, pondering a stray thought deeper than the rest. As if her subconscious had whispered a forgotten detail, Layla's mind flashed back to that moment just before chaos erupted. She saw, in her mind's eye, the mayor's son accepting the champagne. But who had handed it to him? Had Marcus reached across the table where someone else, someone whose face emerged half-formed from the shadows of her memory, stood veiled in obscurity? Motivated by the sliver of a mystery that needed uncovering, Layla found herself driven to uncover the truth. The night's events played over again in her mind, a puzzle that demanded solving. She couldn't rest until she followed through with investigating, setting aside the pressing thoughts of consequences and a house of cards that could still fall. Whatever glimmer of hope emerged from this question, she knew it was worth chasing. With this newfound determination, Layla began sketching a plan that would slowly unravel the tightly wound tape of truth hidden beneath deceptive layers. The days dragged on, each one an echo of the last as Layla maintained a painful routine of self-doubt interspersed with fleeting moments of determination. The door to the truth felt locked, but she was resolute in her quest to unearth the hidden key. It was during one of these brief surges of determination that the memory crystallized further, a flash of Marcus's hand reaching not for her tray, but for another that had been placed confidently on the table by none other than Jake, the mayor's daughter's boyfriend. Layla recalled the glances he'd shot around the room, his eyes darting suspiciously like those of a fox sniffing out danger. Furrowing her eyebrows, she clasped the edges of her kitchen table tightly. Maybe no one else noticed that swift exchange. Maybe no one needed to, if she could find a way to show it, or better yet, prove it. That thought pushed her to action. Layla picked up her phone once more, dialing the number of the event's coordinator. Though her hands trembled, her voice maintained steadiness as she asked for access to the security footage. "It could clear my name," she implored, her words tinged with a desperation she tried hard to suppress. But the response was curt and unyielding, confidentiality this, liability that, leaving Layla with nothing but her own resolve. The call ended not in thanks but in another reminder of her outsider status. Refusing to give up despite this rejection, she knew the footage had to exist and that someone else with access could be persuaded to help. Her next strategy was more covert. Returning to the mansion required stealth, but desperation was on her side. She arrived on the pretense of picking up something she left behind, which neither security nor the staff could easily contest. Inside, she lingered near the back entrance until she saw a familiar face, Marcus, one of the security guards, who she remembered as someone briefly kind to her amid chaos. With an expression of faint familiarity and determination, she motioned him over, her voice soft yet urgent. "Do you remember me from the gala?" she asked quietly, meeting his eyes with hers. His hesitant nod was enough encouragement. I really need your help, she continued. I think you might be able to retrieve the tapes from that night. There's something I need to confirm, something that could prove my innocence. Marcus looked unsure, casting glances to ensure their privacy. The tapes are locked in the security room, he replied cautiously. But if there's really something there. There is something, she whispered fiercely. I just need a chance to see it myself. Please. Whether moved by Layla's sincerity or another shared understanding, Marcus eventually agreed. He asked her to wait in the break room while he inconspicuously gathered the relevant files. The waiting was interminable, a coil of anxiety wrapping tighter within her. Eventually, Marcus returned, holding a small USB drive. This is from the camera overlooking the bar, he explained. It's all I've got. Thank you, Layla said, feeling a surge of gratitude and hope rush through her. With the drive safely in hand, she left quickly, not wanting to linger where questions might follow. Back in her apartment, she wasted no time accessing the files. There, she reviewed the footage, each second heavy with anticipation. She fast-forwarded past minutes where nothing seemed significant until she captured the precise moment. Marcus, glass in hand, approaching the tray laid by Jake. There, where a seemingly ordinary switch occurred, Jake's hand brushed swiftly along Marcus' glass, albeit briefly but deliberately. The scene was damning, confirming her suspicions. In this damning evidence, Layla saw not just the proof of her innocence but the inadvertent misdeed of a young man caught possibly in an overly ambitious or reckless act. The realization coursed through her: Jake had been playing with stakes far too high. In the face of evidence, Layla's relief was overwhelmed by questions yet calcifying her narrative. She replayed the clip, ensuring each viewing solidified the truth her heart yearned for: she was not the villain in this story. And now she had the means to show everyone. But how she could present this evidence effectively and be believed was her next puzzle to solve. She needed corroboration, an undeniable witness, someone with power to make the elite acknowledge her, to declare her innocence publicly. A surge of nervous energy replaced her previous melancholy. This small victory left her poised and ready to take the next step, careful not to miscalculate. There had to be a way to be heard, and anyone who'd paid attention would have to listen once she presented this clip surrounded by the undeniable atmosphere of truth. That same afternoon, Layla penned a letter, polite, articulate, one detailing her conclusions to her former employer, the event coordinator who'd dismissed her earlier. In it, she shared that she'd found indisputable evidence of her innocence. Strategically, she added that she intended to speak to the mayor directly, should this letter receive no reply. If the gala organizer had any inclination to protect their reputation, Layla assumed they would take her seriously now. With hope sparked anew, it was only a matter of time before Layla had to convert her painstaking findings into her vindication. She composed herself, prepared for the meeting her letter might evoke, knowing the journey was nearing a critical peak. Her resolve, strengthened by the slender proof clasped in hand, meant she could no longer be dismissed. Not now, not when the truth was ready to finally step into the light. Layla's resolve to prove her innocence was only magnified when, days later, an invitation unexpectedly appeared on her doorstep. The letter, marked with the event coordinator's seal, requested her presence at a local charity dinner organized by the same elite members who had orchestrated the prior gala. It was the opportunity she had hoped for, packaged as an olive branch under the guise of diplomacy. Wearily, yet with a palpable purpose, Layla prepared herself. She chose a simple dress, its soft hues a refreshing contrast to the darker shadows cast over her recent days. She couldn't afford anything more extravagant, but it served as a symbol, her determination to face what was ahead with her head held high. As she arrived at the charity dinner, the air was tense with anticipation, perfumed with the wealth of the city's elite. The opulent setting mirrored the gala's grandeur, only this time Layla entered not as a server, but as a guest, no longer the invisible woman from the margins. She felt every eye appraise her, an innocent yet conspicuous presence among VIPs used to controlling the narrative. The mayor was present, standing alongside his family, and among them was Marcus, surprisingly recovered and lively, treating the evening as a redeeming celebration. Standing by, Layla noticed Jake, whose surreptitious movements in the footage she had watched so many times marked him as a focal point of her mission. The dinner commenced, speeches punctuated the meal with gratitude for generosity and courage. The floor hushed, and a moment arose during which Layla knew she had to act, before the conclusion, before her courage deferred to silence. As the final speaker yielded the stage, Layla felt her heart pound against her chest like a caged bird. Stepping forward with a quiet confidence, Layla's voice sliced through the gentle hum of chatter. "Excuse me, everyone," she announced, her heart racing despite the steadiness in her tone. "There's something I need to share, something crucial to understanding what truly happened at the gala." Her proclamation was met with silence, then the ripple of murmurs as dozens of eyes settled upon her. "I have evidence that disputes the claims made against me," she continued, steeling herself as she raised the small tablet she carried. A piece of clear proof showing who was with Marcus's drink before it turned. There was a pause. Interest peaked, the crowd leaned inwards, a collective curiosity that dared to prod the truth. The event coordinator nodded reluctantly from their position by the stage, signaling assent. Layla inhaled deeply, and she played the footage. The screen was small, but the significance of the moment was beyond the tangible. As it unfolded, the room watched Marcus's hand reach for the glass, and then everyone saw Jake's faded nudge. Silent gasps punctuated the soft glow from the screen, where time's shadowed movement spoke louder than words could. The revelation was as explosive as it was irrefutable. Marcus, blushing furiously, eyed Jake with incredulity, while Jake paled, his facade of composure cracking under the penetrating gaze of the collective audience. Councilwoman Hughes was the first to voice the growing consensus, her words sharp yet seemingly uninvolved now. "What is this? There's no disputing what we've seen," she declared, her prior accusations dissolving uncomfortably around her. Amid the whispers of scandal, Layla remained poised, her chest no longer hollow but full. She met eyes with the mayor, his expression shifting from befuddlement to a father's concerned anger as he focused on Jake, who had become motionless, caught in the headlights of scandal. "I didn't mean for anything, it wasn't supposed to," Jake stumbled over his words, knowing full well that explanations would be scrutinized under this new light. "This exonerates Miss Carter beyond doubt," someone concluded amid the din. The meeting had become more than dinner, it was an arena where truth and reputation wrestled. The energy in the room shifted, murmurs evolved into outright conversations over culpability and ethics. The mayor approached Layla, within his demeanor a blend of sorrow and contrition, nodding to her with a respect he had not considered appropriate before. "Thank you," Marcus admitted quietly when Layla neared him after congruence took hold of the circle. "I can't believe this happened." This truth needed to emerge, Layla replied simply, acknowledging him not out of hostility, but as an ally who now shared the burden of bewilderment. With feigned nonchalance, yet with undercurrents of distress, Jake was escorted out, his denial of wrongdoing lost amidst the proof that now represented Layla's liberation. The event coordinator, struggling to reclaim dignity amongst the elite, issued an official apology on behalf of the gala's missteps. "At any time, if you want to return," they offered, an olive branch extended softly. But a sense of vindication had already planted seeds for Layla. Here, she saw more than what the job had once represented. It illuminated new paths where her voice would not find itself stifled. Layla's parting from the dinner held different weight, her existence once shadowed by doubt now steeped in acknowledged truth. Respect, wrested with grace from the hands of those who'd nearly drowned her in persecution, had become her torch, guiding her from the heavy evening into the fresh, clearer air beyond. And as she departed into the quiet embrace of night, Layla's steps were purposeful, her silhouette no longer blurred against elite tapestries, but painted brightly on the cusp of a new day. In the days following the charity dinner, ripples from the events continued to spread through the elite circles of the city. The scandal at the heart of it, the attempted framing and the revelation of the truth, dominated whispered conversations behind drawn curtains and at hushed business meetings. Layla Carter's name, once associated solely with baseless accusations, now carried the weight of integrity and resilience publicly acknowledged. Jake's dismissal from the upper echelons of social events was swift and absolute. The mayor's daughter could not shield him from the consequences of his rash, careless actions. Legal proceedings began quietly, and Jake found himself entangled in a net of repercussions that extended beyond mere social embarrassment. His actions, underscored by their recklessness, were scrutinized under the law's stern gaze. Meanwhile, Layla's life blossomed with possibilities once unimagined. The event coordinator reached out formally, extending an offer not just to return but to helm events with authority and a substantial pay increase. Yet, Layla, buoyed by the groundswell of support, realized that the narrow corridor she had once walked had widened into expansive avenues of opportunity. In place of her former role, a notable local foundation, captivated by her courage and tenacity, offered Layla a scholarship to pursue any educational pathway she desired. They understood her backstory, the sacrifices laid bare, and sought to honor it. Holding the offer letter in her hands, tears slipped down her cheeks, tears of resolve and renewal, of a metamorphosis long overdue. When Layla finally met with the mayor, it was within the dignified walls of City Hall, this time without the sword of injustice hanging overhead. He extended his hand, his demeanor one of sincere gratitude and apology. "Miss Carter," he began, choosing his words with care, "my family and I owe you more than just an apology. Your perseverance is admirable, and it's our hope that this is only the start of greater things for you." His words resonated deeply, not just for their acknowledgement, but for affirming the shift in power that the truth had granted her. The mayor spoke candidly about supporting her future endeavors, bridging what had once been a chasm of misunderstanding with mutual respect. Layla thanked him graciously. "I only wanted the truth to come out," she replied, her steady gaze meeting his. It was never about revenge, only justice. Layla's ascension from accused to acclaimed wasn't just in the retelling of her story but in its retouching on public consciousness, where injustice met resistance and transformed into redemption. As she left City Hall, past reporters and flashing cameras documenting this chapter of her ongoing narrative, she embraced the new future she was sculpting. Her decision was made. Layla would pursue her dream of completing her studies in medicine, a goal once deferred by life's unforeseen burdens. Backed by the Foundation's scholarship and the community she now felt genuinely part of, the path seemed for the first time not merely possible but radiant. The former dismissive whispers that followed her into rooms were now replaced by conversations seasoned with appreciation, colleagues and acquaintances echoing respect towards her renewed trajectory. And the once muted response from the accuser, Councilwoman Hughes, turned quickly supportive when they crossed paths again, a meeting in the Public Library Fund event. "I underestimated you," she admitted, offering a hand that Layla accepted with quiet magnanimity. "Your strength is something to behold." Though Layla offered a forgiving nod, she left their exchange with unwavering self-respect, a movement in her spirit that would not be curtailed by fragile amends. In the aftermath, Layla approached her first day back in academia with anticipation akin to standing on the precipice of dawn. Returning to classrooms filled with past aspirations and new possibilities, she carried within her the life lessons learned not from textbooks but from resilience scribed in the ink of experience. On a crisp morning, the campus sprawled before her vast and welcoming. She walked its pathways, bearing the light of her journey. The whispers of autumn leaves beneath her feet harmonized with the rhythm of her heartbeat, a symphony of quiet resolve shadowed by past echoes yet crescendoed by undying hope. Her mother's memory traveled with her, an unseen presence on this reclaimed road. As Layla stepped into her first lecture, she knew every instance, every decision, had converged into the strength of this singular moment. Life's trials had sculpted not just a victor, but a woman refined, not just by circumstance, but by the grace with which she met each one. From the humble silhouette cast at the gala's onset, Layla had emerged not simply vindicated but embraced by a future defined by her capacity to inspire and heal. As she seated herself among new faces, welcoming challenges ahead, she knew once more that her story hadn't concluded, it was only truly beginning. And thus, Layla Carter, once lost amid the shadows of others' grandeur, stood liberated and luminous, her dignity untouchable, her spirit unbreakable. Her name, once only whispered in ridicule, was now spoken with admiration, a testament to the quiet, simple woman who rose beyond the doubting glances to command her narrative with clarion pride and unfaltering grace.